The rain had been falling for 3 days straight when I got the call, the kind of persistent autumn rain that turns everything gray and makes the world feel smaller, colder, like it's closing in on you. I was standing in the kitchen of the house I grew up in, the house that had been Mom's until 6 months ago, the house that now sat heavy on my shoulders like a coat made of lead. The linoleum floor was the same ugly yellow it had always been, cracked near the sink where Mom used to stand washing dishes, humming songs I could never quite place. The fluorescent light overhead buzzed and flickered, casting everything in that harsh, unflattering glow that made even fresh flowers look half dead. My phone vibrated against the countertop, rattling the empty coffee mug I'd left there that morning. I didn't recognize the number. For a moment, I considered letting it go to voicemail, but something in my gut twisted, that old familiar feeling that told me this call would matter, that it would change something. I picked it up, pressed it to my ear, and heard a voice I hadn't heard in 7 years, 2 months, and 16 days. Not that I was counting. Rachel, my sister, the one who left. Her voice sounded different, older somehow, with a roughness around the edges that hadn't been there before. She said my name, just my name, Claire, and it came out like a question, like she wasn't sure I'd still answer to it, like maybe I'd become someone else in all the time she'd been gone. The kitchen suddenly felt too warm despite the chill that had settled into the old house's bones. I could smell the faint mustiness that had crept into the walls, mixing with the coffee I'd burned that morning, and the rain coming to crack in the window frame I kept meaning to fix. I didn't say anything at first. What do you say to a ghost? What do you say to someone who walked out of your life without a backward glance, who missed Mom's diagnosis, her decline, her final days in a hospice room that smelled like antiseptic and artificial lavender? What do you say to someone who didn't come to the funeral, didn't send flowers, didn't even send a card? She filled the silence with words that tumbled out too fast, tripping over each other. She'd heard about Mom. She was sorry. She wanted to come home. She wanted to talk. She'd be here tomorrow. Tomorrow. Just like that. 7 years of nothing. And now tomorrow. I hung up without saying goodbye, my hand shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. Outside, the rain kept falling, drumming against the roof, gurgling through gutters that needed cleaning, pooling in the driveway where the asphalt had cracked and buckled. I stood there in that ugly yellow kitchen, surrounded by Mom's things I hadn't been able to pack away yet, her favorite mug still sitting in the dish drainer, her reading glasses on the windowsill, her calendar on the wall still turned to March, the month she died. The house creaked and settled around me, all its familiar sounds suddenly feeling ominous. The refrigerator hummed. The old pipes knocked somewhere in the walls. The wind pushed against the windows, making them rattle in their frames. This house had always been too big, too drafty, too full of corners where cold air gathered and refused to leave. Mom used to say it had character. Dad used to say it had problems. They were both right. I walked through the living room, my footsteps muffled by the worn carpet that had once been cream-colored but had faded to something closer to gray. The furniture sat exactly where it had always been, the couch with the sagging middle cushion, the armchair Dad used to fall asleep in, the coffee table with the water ring from where Rachel had left a glass one summer night and forgot about it. Everything was the same, but everything was different, because Mom wasn't here and Rachel was coming back, and I didn't know which absence fell heavier. The photographs on the mantel stared at me with frozen smiles. There we were, Rachel and me, gap-toothed and sunburned at the beach. There we were at Christmas, wrapped in matching pajamas Mom had sewn herself. There we were at Rachel's high school graduation, her arm around my shoulders, both of us laughing at something Dad had said. We looked happy. We looked like sisters who would always be sisters, who would always have each other's backs, who would never let anything come between us. We looked like liars. I picked up the frame, felt its weight in my hands, traced the edge with my thumb. The glass was dusty. Everything in this house was dusty now. I'd been living here for 6 months, ever since Mom got too sick to be alone, and I still couldn't keep up with it all. Dust settled on every surface like snow, soft and relentless. I'd wipe it away and it would come back, patient and persistent, reclaiming everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my old bedroom, in the twin bed I'd slept in from age 7 until I moved out at 22, staring at the ceiling where the glow in the dark stars I'd stuck up there as a kid had long since lost their glow. The room smelled like old wood, and the lavender sachets Mom used to tuck into all the drawers. Rain pattered against the window, and somewhere down the street a dog barked, lonely and insistent. I kept thinking about the last time I'd seen Rachel. It had been Thanksgiving 7 years ago. She'd been 25, I'd been 23. We'd fought about something stupid, something I couldn't even remember now. Probably about whose turn it was to do the dishes, or who borrowed whose sweater without asking. But then the fight had grown, the way fights do when there's other stuff underneath. Stuff you don't want to talk about, stuff that's been festering for years. She'd said I was Mom's favorite, that I'd always been Mom's favorite, that she was tired of being the disappointment. I'd said she was being ridiculous, that Mom loved us both the same, that she was just making excuses for her own choices. She'd said I didn't understand anything, that I was too busy being perfect to see what it was like for everyone else. I'd said at least I was here, at least I showed up, at least I tried. The words had hung in the air between us like smoke, acrid and choking. Mom had come into the kitchen then, her face drawn and tired, and told us to stop. Please just stop. She couldn't take the fighting anymore. Rachel had grabbed her coat and left. Just left. Walked out into the November cold, and didn't come back. At first, we thought she'd cool off and return in a few hours, maybe a day. But hours turned into days. Days turned into weeks. She'd text occasionally, short messages that said she was fine. She needed space. She'd be in touch. The texts got less frequent. Then they stopped altogether. Her phone number changed. Her social media went dark. It was like she'd erased herself from our lives. Carefully and completely. Mom never stopped hoping she'd come back. Even at the end, even when the cancer had eaten away at her until she was more bones than flesh, more shadow than substance, she'd ask about Rachel. Had I heard from her? Did I know where she was? Would I try to find her? I'd lie and say I'd tried, that I couldn't find her, that maybe she'd come back when she was ready. The truth was I'd stopped trying after the first year. The truth was I was angry, so angry I could taste it like copper in my mouth, angry that she'd left, angry that she'd hurt Mom, angry that she'd left me to deal with everything alone. And now she was coming back. Now, when it was too late. Now, when Mom was gone and there was nothing left but this house and stuff in it, and the bills that kept coming and the decisions that needed to be made. The next morning came too quickly and not quickly enough. I'd finally fallen asleep sometime around 4, and when I woke up at 7, my body felt like it had been filled with concrete. The rain had stopped, but the sky was still that flat, oppressive gray that promised more to come. I made coffee, burned it again, drank it anyway. The bitterness matched my mood. I tried to keep busy. I sorted through boxes in the spare room. Mom's clothes that still smelled like her perfume, that powdery floral scent she'd worn for as long as I could remember. I folded and refolded sweaters. Tried not to think about how small they were, how much weight she'd lost at the end. I found a scarf I'd given her for Christmas 5 years ago, still with the tags on. She'd probably been saving it for a special occasion. There hadn't been enough special occasions. Around noon, I heard a car in the driveway. My heart started hammering against my ribs, hard enough that I could feel it in my throat. I went to the window, pulled back the curtain just enough to see. A rental car, something small and silver and anonymous. The driver's side door opened, and Rachel stepped out. She looked the same and completely different. Her hair was shorter, cut into a blunt bob that ended at her chin. She'd always worn it long, down to the middle of her back, and seeing it short felt wrong, like she'd cut away part of herself. She was thinner, too, her jeans hanging loose on her hips, her jacket, black leather that looked expensive, seeming too big for her frame. But her face was the same. The same sharp cheekbones, the same straight nose, the same mouth that could smile or sneer with equal ease. My face. We'd always looked alike, people mistaking us for twins, even though she was 2 years older. She stood there for a moment, staring at the house, and I wondered what she was thinking. Was she remembering the good times? The summer nights catching fireflies in the backyard? The winter mornings making snow angels? Or was she remembering the fights? The slammed doors, the tears, the long silences that stretched between us like chasms? I let the curtain fall and went to the door. My hand hovered over the knob. I could still not answer. I could let her stand out there, let her knock and knock until she gave up and left. I could make her feel what it felt like to be abandoned, to be left behind, to be the one who stayed. But I opened the door. We stood there, looking at each other across the threshold. Up close, I could see the changes more clearly. Fine lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before. A hardness in her expression, a wariness, like she was expecting me to slam the door in her face. Her hands were shoved deep in her jacket pockets, and she was shivering slightly, though it wasn't that cold. "Hello, Claire," she said, and her voice cracked on my name. I stepped back, gestured for her to come in. She moved past me, and I caught her scent cigarettes and some perfume I didn't recognize. Something sharp and woody. She'd never smoked before. That was new. The house seemed to shrink with her in it, the air growing thicker, harder to breathe. She stood in the entryway, looking around like she was seeing it all for the first time. Her gaze moved over everything. The coat rack where Dad's old jacket still hung. The mirror with a crack in the corner from when Rachel had thrown a shoe at it during some long-forgotten argument. The small table where Mom always kept fresh flowers, now empty except for a layer of dust. "It looks the same," Rachel said softly. "It is the same," I replied, and I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice. "Nothing's changed, except Mom's dead." The words landed between us like stones. Rachel flinched, actually flinched, her whole body jerking like I'd slapped her. Her eyes, when they met mine, were shiny with tears she was trying not to shed. "I know," she whispered. "I know, Claire. I'm sorry. Sorry." Such a small word for such a big absence. Sorry didn't cover the nights I'd spent alone in the hospital, holding Mom's hand while she slept, fitful and restless. Sorry didn't cover the decisions I'd had to make by myself, whether to try another round of chemo, whether to move her to hospice, whether to let them increase the morphine, even though it meant she'd sleep more, talk less, slip away faster. Sorry didn't cover the funeral I'd planned alone. Picking out the casket, choosing the flowers, writing the obituary, standing at the front of the church and giving the eulogy while my voice shook and my hands trembled, and I wished, God, how I wished, that I had a sister standing beside me. "Why are you here, Rachel?" I asked, and I was surprised by how tired I sounded, how empty. Where's the anger? I'd been so angry last night, angry enough to scream, to throw things, to tell her to leave and never come back. But now, looking at her standing in our childhood home, looking small and lost and scared, I just felt exhausted. She took a breath, let it out slowly. "I came to help," she said, "with the house, with Mom's things. I know I should have been here before. I know I messed up, but I'm here now and I want to help. Help." I almost laughed. Where was she when I needed help? Where was she when Mom was throwing up from the chemo, when she couldn't get out of bed, when she cried, because she was scared and in pain and didn't want to die? Where was she when I had to take a leave of absence from my job, when I had to move back into this house, when I had to learn how to change bandages and manage medications, and pretend everything was going to be okay when we both knew it wasn't? "I don't need your help," I said, and the words came out flat, final. "I've been managing fine on my own." Something flickered across her face. Hurt, maybe, or anger. Her jaw tightened. "I'm not asking for permission. Claire, this was Mom's house. That makes it my house, too. I have a right to be here." And there it was, the real reason she'd come back. Not to help, not to make amends, not because she cared, but because there was something to claim, something to take, something that might be worth something. "The house," I said slowly, feeling my way through the realization. "You came back to the house." She had the decency to look uncomfortable, shifting her weight from foot to foot, her gaze sliding away from mine. "It's not like that," she started, but I cut her off. "What is it like then?" I demanded, and now the anger was back, hot and sharp in my chest. "You disappear for 7 years. You don't call, you don't write, you don't come to Mom's funeral. And now you show up talking about your rights? About what's yours?" "I had reason for leaving," she said, and her voice was rising too, matching mine. "You don't know what it was like for me. Claire, you don't know what I was going through." "Then tell me," I shot back. "Tell me what was so bad that you had to cut us out completely." Tell me what was worth missing Mom's last years. Tell me what was worth breaking her heart. Rachel's face crumpled, and for a second, she looked exactly like she had when we were kids and she'd scraped her knee or lost her favorite toy, that expression of pure, unguarded hurt. But then she pulled herself together, straightened her shoulders, lifted her chin. You wouldn't understand, she said quietly. Try me. She shook her head, looked away. I didn't come here to fight, she said. I came here to settle things. Mom's estate needs to be dealt with. The house needs to be sold or kept or whatever we decide. Her things need to be sorted. There are legal matters, financial matters. We need to deal with them. We, like she had any right to that word. Like she'd earned a place at the table. I've been dealing with them, I said. I've been dealing with everything. The bills, the mortgage, the insurance, the medical debt. Do you have any idea how much cancer costs, Rachel? Do you have any idea how many bills kept coming even after she died? I can help with that, Rachel said quickly. I have money. I can pay my share. Your share, I repeated, and I couldn't help the bitter laugh that escaped. Your share of what? The debt? The responsibility? The guilt? She flinched again, but this time she didn't look away. Yes, she said simply. All of it. I know I can't make up for not being here. I know I can't fix what I broke. But I can help now. I can do my part now. We stood there in the hallway, the silence stretching between us, filled with all the things we weren't saying, all the years of hurt and anger and resentment. The house held around us, a floorboard creaking, the furnace kicking on with a rattle and a whoosh, warm air starting to flow through the vents, bringing with it the smell of dust and old memories. Fine, I said finally, because what else could I say? She was right. Legally, she had as much claim to this house as I did. Mom had never updated her will after Rachel left, probably because she'd always hoped Rachel would come back, that we'd be a family again. The house was to be split between us, 50-50. Equal shares for 2 daughters. Never mind that one daughter had been here and one hadn't. Fine, irripite, you can stay. We'll sort through Mom's things. We'll figure out what to do with the house. But don't expect me to pretend like everything's okay. Don't expect me to forgive you just because you showed up. I'm not asking you to forgive me, Rachel said, and there was something in her voice, something raw and honest that made me look at her more closely. I'm not asking for anything except a chance to do what I should have done a long time ago. She picked up her bag, a worn duffel that looked like it'd seen better days, and looked at me expectantly. I realized she was waiting for me to tell her where to sleep, where to put her things, how to exist in this space that had been mine alone for so long. Your old room is the same, I said, gesturing toward the stairs. I haven't touched it. Something crossed her face, surprise maybe, or relief. She nodded, started toward the stairs, then paused. Thank you, she said, not looking back, for letting me stay. I didn't respond. I just watched her climb the stairs, her footsteps heavy on the old wood, each step creaking in a familiar rhythm I'd heard 1,000 times before. When she reached the top and disappeared down the hallway, I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. The house felt different now, charged with a tension that made my skin prickle. I went back to the kitchen, poured myself another cup of terrible coffee, and stood at the sink looking out at the backyard. The grass was overgrown, weeds pushing up through the cracks in the patio. The swing set Dad had built when we were kids was still there, rusted and listing to one side, the swings hanging motionless in the still air. Everything was falling apart, slowly but surely, and I didn't know how to stop it. Upstairs, I could hear Rachel moving around, the sound of drawers opening and closing, the creak of bed springs as she sat on the bed. I wondered what she was thinking, what she was feeling, coming back to a room she left behind 7 years ago. Had she missed it? Had she thought about us? Or had she been relieved to be free of this place, of U.S., of all the expectations and disappointments that came of being part of this family? I spent the rest of the day avoiding her. I found things to do in different parts of the house, always making sure I was in a different room than she was. I heard her in the bathroom, water running, the old pipes groaning. I heard her in the living room, moving things around, maybe looking at the photographs on the mantel. I heard her in the kitchen, opening cabinets, the refrigerator, probably realizing how little food I'd been keeping in the house. I'd been living on coffee and toast mostly, sometimes ordering takeout when I remembered to eat. As evening approached, the sky darkening to a deep purple gray, I heard her coming down the stairs. I was in the dining room, sorting through papers, bills, and insurance statements and medical records, trying to make sense of the financial mess Mom had left behind. It wasn't her fault. She'd been too sick to keep track of things, and I'd been too overwhelmed to stay on top of it all. Rachel appeared in the doorway, and I could feel her watching me. I kept my eyes on the papers, pretending to be absorbed in a particularly confusing explanation of benefits from the insurance company. I was thinking we could order pizza. She said, like we used to, as if we could just slip back into old patterns, old routines, as if 7 years of absence could be erased with pepperoni and cheese. I'm not hungry, I said, still not looking up. Claire, she said, and there was something pleading in her voice. Please, can we just try? Can we just have dinner together and try to be civil? I finally looked up at her. She was leaning against the doorframe, her arms crossed over her chest, and she looked tired, deep down tired, the kind that sleep doesn't fix. There were dark circles under her eyes, and her skin had a grayish tinge to it, like she hadn't been eating well or sleeping well or taking care of herself. Fine, I said, because I was tired too, tired of being angry, tired of fighting, tired of everything. Order pizza. Get whatever you want. She pulled out her phone, and I noticed her hands were shaking slightly as she scrolled through the app. She ordered a large pizza, half pepperoni for her, half mushroom and olive for me, exactly how we used to order it when we were kids. The fact that she remembered made something twist in my chest, something that felt dangerously close to softness. While we waited for the food, we sat in the living room, not quite together but not quite apart, her on one end of the couch, me on the other. The television was off. The silence between us was thick and uncomfortable, filled with all the things we should say, but didn't know how to. How have you been? Rachel asked finally, and the question was so absurd, so inadequate, that I almost laughed. How have I been? I've been watching our mother die. I said bluntly, I've been holding her hand while she threw up blood. I've been changing her sheets when she couldn't control her bladder anymore. I've been listening to her cry in the middle of the night because she was scared and in pain, and there was nothing I could do to help her. That's how I've been. Rachel's face went pale, and she looked down at her hands, twisting them together in her lap. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry, Claire. I should have been here. I know I should have been here. Why weren't you? I asked, and my voice came out softer than I intended, less accusatory, more genuinely curious. What happened, Rachel? Where did you go? She was quiet for a long time, so long I thought she wasn't going to answer. Then she started talking, her voice low and halting, like each word was being pulled out of her against her will. After I left that Thanksgiving, she said, I went to stay with a friend in Chicago. I was so angry at you, at Mom, at myself. I felt like I was suffocating here, like I couldn't breathe, like I was always disappointing everyone no matter what I did. So I left. I thought I'd stay away for a few weeks, just long enough to clear my head. But then weeks turned into months, and it got harder and harder to come back. I was ashamed, I guess, ashamed that I'd left, ashamed that I'd stayed away, ashamed that I didn't know how to fix it. She paused, took a shaky breath. I got a job at a restaurant, waiting tables. I met someone, a guy named Marcus. We moved in together. For a while, things were good. I thought maybe I'd finally found where I belonged, you know? But then things got bad. He got controlling, jealous. He didn't like me talking to anyone from my past. He went through my phone, my email. He isolated me from the few friends I'd made. And I let him. Because I thought I deserved it. Because I thought this was what I got for abandoning my family. I stared at her, seeing her differently now, seeing the shadows behind her eyes, the way she held herself like she was trying to take up as little space as possible. How bad did it get? I asked quietly. Bad enough, she said, and her voice was barely audible. Bad enough that I have a scar on my ribs from where he pushed me into a table. Bad enough that I learned to walk quietly, to speak softly, to make myself invisible. Bad enough that when I finally left, I had to do it in the middle of the night with nothing but the clothes on my back and $200 I'd been hiding in a tampon box. Jesus, Rachel, I breathed. She looked up at me then, and her eyes were wet but defiant. I'm not telling you this to make you feel sorry for me, she said. I'm telling you because you asked. I'm telling you because you deserve to know where I was and why I didn't come back. But I'm not using it as an excuse. I still should have called. I still should have found a way to let you know I was alive, that I was okay, even when I wasn't okay. I should have been here when Mom got sick. There's no excuse for that. The doorbell rang, startling us both. The pizza had arrived. I got up to answer it, grateful for the interruption, for a moment to process what she just told me. I paid the delivery guy, took the pizza, and brought it to the kitchen. Rachel followed, and we ate standing at the counter, not bothering with plates, just pulling slices straight from the box like we used to do when we were teenagers. The pizza was hot and greasy, and exactly what I needed. I hadn't realized how hungry I was until I started eating. We didn't talk while we ate, but the silence felt different now, less hostile, more contemplative. I kept glancing at Rachel, trying to reconcile this version of her with the sister I remembered, the sister who'd been confident and bold and always so sure of herself. That sister seemed like a stranger now, or maybe she'd always been a stranger, and I just never looked closely enough to see the cracks. When we finished eating, Rachel started cleaning up, gathering the napkins in the empty box, wiping down the counter. I watched her move around the kitchen, and it was strange how natural it looked, how easily she fell back into the rhythms of this space. What happened to Marcus? I asked. She paused, her back to me. I got a restraining order, she said. He violated it twice. The second time, he went to jail for 6 months. When he got out, I'd moved to a different city, changed my number, made sure he couldn't find me. That was 2 years ago. I haven't heard from him since. Are you safe now? She turned to face me, and there was something fierce in her expression. I'm safe, she said. I made sure of it. I took self-defense classes. I'm careful about who I let into my life. I don't make the same mistakes twice. Good, I said, and I meant it. She smiled, just a little, just enough that I could see a glimpse of the sister I used to know. Thanks, she said. We moved back to the living room. And this time when we sat on the couch, the distance between us felt less like a chasm and more like just space, neutral and navigable. Rachel picked up one of the photo albums on the coffee table, the old one with the fake leather cover that was peeling at the corners. She opened it carefully, like it might fall apart in her hands, and started flipping through the pages. I watched her face as she looked at the photos, saw the way her expression softened, the way her fingers traced the edges of the pictures like she was trying to touch the past. Look at us, she said, pointing to a photo of the two of us in the bathtub, covered in bubbles, grinning at the camera. We must have been, 4 and 6? Something like that, I said, leaning over to look. I remembered that day, vaguely. Mom had let us use almost a whole bottle of bubble bath, and we'd made beards and hats out of foam, laughing until our sides hurt. We were so happy, Rachel said softly. When did everything get so complicated? I don't know, I admitted. Maybe it was always complicated, and we were just too young to see it. She kept flipping through the album, and we fell into a rhythm, her pointing out photos, me filling in the details I remembered. There we were at the county fair, sticky with cotton candy. There we were on the first day of school, Rachel looking confident in her new backpack, me looking terrified. There we were at Dad's funeral, both of us in black dresses that were too big, both of us trying so hard to be brave. I miss him, Rachel said, her finger resting on Dad's face in the photo. I miss him so much. Me too, I said. He would have known what to do. He always knew what to do. Dad had died when I was 15, Rachel 17. Heart attack, sudden and devastating. One day he was there, fixing the leaky faucet and complaining about the lawn mower, and the next day he was gone. Mom had fallen apart for a while, and Rachel and I had tried to hold things together, tried to be strong for her. But we'd been kids ourselves, drowning in our own grief, and we hadn't known how to help each other, how to share the weight of what we'd lost. After Dad died, things changed, Rachel said, still looking at the photo. Mom changed. She got so sad, so distant. And I felt like I had to be perfect, like I had to make up for him being gone, like I had to be enough for both of them. But I wasn't. I was never enough. You were enough, I said, and I was surprised to realize I meant it. You were always enough, Rachel. Mom loved you. She never stopped loving you, even after you left. Then why did I always feel like I was disappointing her? Rachel asked, and her voice broke on the last word. Why did I always feel like no matter what I did, it wasn't good enough? I didn't have an answer for that. Maybe because Mom had been dealing with her own pain, her own grief, and sometimes that pain had come out in ways that hurt us. Maybe because we'd all been doing the best we could with what we had, and sometimes our best wasn't enough. Maybe because families are messy and complicated and full of people who love each other, but don't always know how to show it. She asked about you, I said quietly. At the end, she asked about you all the time. She wanted to know if you were okay, if you were happy, if you'd ever come home. Rachel closed the album, set it carefully back on the table. What did you tell her? I told her you were fine, I said. I told her you'd come back when you were ready. I didn't want her to worry. She had enough to worry about. Thank you, Rachel whispered. Thank you for that. We sat there in the growing darkness, neither of us moving to turn on a light. Outside, the wind had picked up, rattling the windows, sending leaves skittering across the porch. The house creaked and groaned, settling into the night, and I felt the weight of it all pressing down on me, the weight of the past and the present and the uncertain future. What are we going to do with this place? Rachel asked, echoing my thoughts. I don't know, I admitted. I've been trying to figure that out for months. The mortgage is almost paid off, just a few thousand left, but the house needs work. New roof, new furnace, new windows. It would cost more to fix it up than it's probably worth. But I can't bring myself to sell it. Not yet. Do you want to keep it? I don't know, I said again. Part of me does. This is where we grew up. This is where all our memories are. But another part of me wants to walk away, to start fresh somewhere else, somewhere that doesn't have Mom's ghost in every corner. We could fix it up together. Rachel suggested tentatively. We could split the cost, split the work, make it livable again. Then we could decide what to do with it. I looked at her, trying to gauge if she was serious. You want to stay? You want to work on this house with me? I want to try, she said. I want to try to make things right, or at least better. I know I can't change the past. I know I can't bring back the time I lost with Mom. But maybe I can do this. Maybe we can do this together. I thought about it, turning the idea over my mind. It would mean spending more time with Rachel, working alongside her, learning to trust her again. It would mean opening myself up to the possibility of being hurt again, of being disappointed again. But it would also mean not being alone, not carrying all of this by myself anymore. Okay, I said finally. Okay, let's try. Rachel's face lit up, and for a moment, she looked like the sister I remembered, the one who used to dare me to climb higher in the trees, to swim farther in the lake, to believe that anything was possible if we just tried hard enough. We spent the next few days in a kind of uneasy truce, circling each other carefully, learning how to exist in the same space again. We started going through Mom's things, a task I'd been putting off because it felt too final, too much like erasing her. But with Rachel there, it felt more bearable, more like we were honoring her memory instead of discarding it. We started in Mom's bedroom, the room I'd barely been able to enter since she died. It still smelled like her, that powdery floral scent mixed with the faint medicinal smell that had clung to everything at the end. Her bed was made, the quilt she'd sewn herself pulled tight and smooth. Her slippers were still by the bedside, waiting for feet that would never wear them again. Rachel stood in the doorway for a long moment before stepping inside. I watched her take it all in, saw the way her throat worked as she swallowed hard, fighting back tears. Where do we start? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The closet, I said. We'll start with the clothes. We pulled out boxes and garbage bags and began the slow, painful process of sorting through Mom's wardrobe. There were dresses she'd worn to church, blouses she'd worn to work, the ratty bathrobe she refused to throw away even though it was falling apart. Each item held a memory, a moment, a piece of who she'd been. Rachel held up a blue cardigan, soft and worn. I remember this, she said. She wore this all the time. She'd put it on when she was cold, or when she was sad, or when she just wanted to feel cozy. "Keep it," I said. "If you want it, keep it." She folded it carefully, set it aside in a pile we were making of things we wanted to save. We worked in silence mostly. The only sound the rustle of fabric, the scrape of hangers, the occasional sniffle as one of us came across something particularly meaningful. In the back of the closet, behind the winter coats, I found a box I'd never seen before. It was old, the cardboard soft and worn, and when I pulled out, dust puffed up in a cloud that made me cough. I set it on the bed and opened it carefully. Inside were letters, dozens of them, bundled together with rubber bands that had gone brittle with age. I picked up one bundle, slipped off the rubber band, and unfolded the top letter. It was addressed to Rachel, in Mom's handwriting, dated 3 years ago. "Rachel," I read aloud, and Rachel's head snapped up. "I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I need to write it anyway. I need you to know that I love you, that I've always loved you, that there's nothing you could do that would make me stop loving you." My voice caught, and I had to stop. Rachel crossed the room in 2 quick steps, took the letter from my hands, and read it herself, her eyes moving rapidly across the page. When she finished, she looked up at me, her face stricken. "There are more," I said, gesturing to box. "A lot more." We spent the next hour reading through them, letter after letter that Mom had written to Rachel over the years, letters she'd never sent, letters that poured out all the love and worry and hope she carried. She wrote about missing Rachel, about wondering where she was and if she was safe. She wrote about her regrets, about the times she'd been too hard on Rachel, too critical, too wrapped up in her own pain to see Rachel's. She wrote about wanting Rachel to come home, about praying every night that she would, about keeping Rachel's room exactly as she left it just in case. By the time we finished reading, we were both crying, tears streaming down our faces, our noses running, our eyes red and swollen. Rachel clutched the letters to her chest like they were the most precious thing in the world. She never stopped hoping, Rachel said through her tears. She never gave up on me. Never, I confirmed. Even at the very end, she was still hoping you'd come back. Rachel sobbed, deep, wrenching sobs that shook her whole body. I moved closer, hesitated for just a moment, then put my arms around her. She collapsed against me, and we held each other, cried together for the first time in 7 years, crying for Mom, for Dad, for all the time we'd lost, for all the pain we'd caused each other. When the tears finally subsided, we were both exhausted, wrung out and empty. We left the rest of Mom's things for another day and went downstairs. Rachel made tea, something herbal that smelled like chamomile and honey, and we sat at the kitchen table, warming our hands on the mugs. "I want to read them again," Rachel said. "All of them. I want to memorize every word." "You should keep them," I said. "They're yours." "She wrote them for you." Rachel nodded, wiped at her eyes with the back of her hand. "I wish I'd known," she said. "I wish I'd known she felt this way. I thought she was angry at me. I thought she hated me for leaving." "She could never hate you," I said. "She was hurt, yes. She was sad, but she never hated you." We finished our tea in silence, and then Rachel said she was tired, that she needed to lie down. I watched her go upstairs, the letter still clutched in her hand, and I felt something shift inside me, some of the anger and resentment loosening its grip, making room for something else, something that felt like the beginning of forgiveness. Over the next few weeks, we fell into a routine. We'd wake up, have coffee together, and then spend the day working on the house. We cleaned out closets and cabinets, sorted through decades of accumulated stuff, deciding what to keep, what to donate, what to throw away. We hired a contractor to look at the roof and the furnace, got estimates that made us both wince, and started making plans for how to afford the repairs. Rachel got a job at a local restaurant, waiting tables again, and she insisted on putting half her paycheck toward the house expenses. I went back to work part-time, remote work I could do from home, and between the two of us, we started to make progress, slowly but surely. We learned how to be around each other again, how to navigate the old hurts and the new dynamics. We had good days and bad days. Some days we worked side by side, talking and laughing, sharing stories and memories. Other days we could barely stand to be in the same room, old resentments flaring up over small things, A dish left in the sink, a light left on, a door closed too hard. But we kept trying. We kept showing up. And gradually, incrementally, things got easier. One Saturday morning, about a month after Rachel had come back, we were in the attic, sorting through boxes of old Christmas decorations. The attic was hot and stuffy, the air thick with dust and the smell of old cardboard. Sweat dripped down my back, and I could feel my hair sticking to my neck. Rachel pulled out a box labeled ornaments and opened it carefully. Inside were the decorations we'd made as kids, construction paper and glitter and popsicle sticks, all carefully preserved by Mom. Rachel lifted out a lopsided star I'd made in second grade, my name written on the back in Mom's handwriting. She kept everything, Rachel said, wonder in her voice. Every single thing we ever made. She loved us so much, I said. Sometimes I think she loved us more than she loved herself. Rachel set the star down gently, picked up another ornament, a reindeer made from a clothespin and pipe cleaners. Do you remember making these? She asked. I nodded. We made them at the kitchen table. Dad was helping us, and he got glitter all over himself. Mom laughed so hard she cried. Rachel smiled, but it was a sad smile, tinged with regret. I took so much for granted. She said, I was so busy being angry and feeling sorry for myself that I didn't appreciate what I had. And now it's gone and I can't get it back. We can't change the past, I said. But we're here now. We're doing this now. That has to count for something. She looked at me, and there was something vulnerable in her expression. Something open and raw. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? She asked. Really forgive me? Not just say you do, but actually mean it? I thought about it, really thought about it. The truth was, I didn't know. Part of me wanted to forgive her, wanted to let go of all the anger and hurt and move forward. But another part of me was still so angry, still so hurt, still holding on to the pain like a shield. I'm trying, I said finally. I'm trying to forgive you. But it's hard, Rachel. It's really hard. You hurt me. You hurt Mom. And I can't just forget that. I'm not asking you to forget, she said. I'm just asking you to try. I'm asking you to give me a chance to prove that I'm not that person anymore, that I can be better, that I can be the sister you deserve. Okay, I said. Okay, I'll try. We went back to sorting through the decorations, and after a while, Rachel said, Do you think we should put up a tree this year? For Christmas? Christmas was still 2 months away, but the question made me pause. We hadn't had a real Christmas since Dad died. Mom had tried for a few years, but her heart hadn't been in it, and eventually we just stopped bothering. It had been easier to let the holiday pass without acknowledgement than to face all the empty spaces at the table. Maybe, I said, if we get the house in better shape by then, if we're still speaking to each other. Rachel laughed, a real laugh, and it was such a surprising, welcome sound that I found myself laughing too. We'll be speaking to each other, she said. We have to be. We're stuck with each other now. Yeah, I said. I guess we are. As fall deepened into winter, the house slowly transformed. We got the roof repaired, the furnace replaced, the windows resealed. We painted the living room a warm cream color, replacing the dingy beige that had been there for decades. We refinished the hardwood floors in the hallway, stripping away years of scuff marks and stains to reveal the beautiful wood underneath. We cleaned and organized and threw away bags and bags of stuff we didn't need, making space, making room for something new. And as the house changed, so did we. The sharp edges of our anger softened. The silences between us became comfortable instead of tense. We started to remember how to be sisters, how to tease and joke and support each other. We started to build something new on the foundation of what we'd lost. But it wasn't all smooth. There are still fights, still moments when old wounds reopened and bled fresh. One night in early November, we got into it over something stupid. I can't even remember what now, and it escalated quickly, both of us yelling, saying things we didn't mean, dredging up old grievances. You always do this, Rachel shouted. You always act like you're so perfect, like you never make mistakes, like you're better than everyone else. I'm not the one who ran away. I shot back. I'm not the one who abandoned my family when they needed me most. And there it was, the thing I'd been holding back, the accusation I'd been trying not to make. Rachel's face went white, then red, and for a moment, I thought she was going to hit me. Instead, she grabbed her coat and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. I stood there in the kitchen, shaking with anger and adrenaline, and then the anger drained away and I was just tired, so tired of fighting, so tired of hurting. I sank into a chair and put my head in my hands. She didn't come back that night. I lay awake, listening for the sound of her car, the sound of the door opening, but there was nothing. By morning, I was sick with worry, imagining all the terrible things that could have happened to her. I called her phone over and over, but it went straight to voicemail. She finally came back around noon, looking exhausted and rumpled, like she'd slept in her car. She didn't say anything, just went straight upstairs to her room and closed the door. I wanted to go after her, to apologize, to make things right, but I didn't know how. I didn't know if she'd even want to hear it. I gave her space for a few hours, then made lunch, grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup, comfort food from our childhood. I knocked on her door softly. "Rachel?" I called. "I made lunch. Will you come eat with me?" There was a long pause, and then the door opened. Rachel stood there, her eyes red and puffy, her hair a mess. "I'm sorry," she said before I could say anything. "I'm sorry I stormed out. I'm sorry I said those things." "I'm sorry, too," I said. "I shouldn't have thrown the past in your face. I know you're trying. I know you're here now." We went downstairs and ate our lunch in silence. But it was a different kind of silence, not angry or tense, just quiet, contemplative. When we finished, Rachel looked at me across the table. "I need to tell you something," she said. "Something I should have told you a long time ago." "Okay," I said, bracing myself. When I left, she said slowly, "It wasn't just because of the fight we had. It wasn't just because I felt like I was disappointing everyone. It was because I was scared. I was scared that if I stayed, I'd turn into someone I didn't want to be. I was scared that I'd get stuck here in this town, in this life, and I'd never figure out who I was supposed to be. So I ran. I ran because I was a coward, because I didn't know how to face my fears, because I thought running away would solve everything." She paused, took a shaky breath. "But running away didn't solve anything. It just made everything worse. I spent 7 years trying to find myself, trying to figure out who I was, and all I found was more pain, more mistakes, more reasons to hate myself. And the whole time, I missed you. I missed Mom. I missed this place, even though I told myself I didn't. I missed being part of something, being part of family." Tears were streaming down her face now, and I felt my own eyes filling up. "You're part of this family," I said. "You always have been. Even when you were gone, you were still my sister. That never changed. I wish I'd known that." She whispered. "I wish I'd believed that." "Believe it now," I said. "Believe it and stay. Stay and help me figure out what to do with this house, with this life, with all of this. I can't do it alone anymore. I don't want to do it alone anymore." She nodded, wiping at her face with her sleeve. "Okay," she said. "Okay, I'll stay." And she did. She stayed through November, through Thanksgiving, which we spent together, just the two of us, cooking a small turkey and making Mom's stuffing recipe and burning the rolls because we were too busy talking to pay attention to the timer. She stayed through December, when we put up a Christmas tree, a real one that smelled like pine and filled the house with the scent of winter. We decorated it with the ornaments we'd found in the attic, the ones we'd made as kids, and we added new ones too, ones we bought together, marking this new chapter, this new beginning. On Christmas Eve, we sat in the living room with the lights off except for the tree, the colored bulbs casting a soft, warm glow over everything. We'd made hot chocolate, the real kind with melted chocolate and cream, and we sat on the couch, wrapped in blankets, watching the lights twinkle. "This is nice," Rachel said softly. "This feels like home." "It is home," I said. "It's always been home. We just forgot for a while." She leaned her head on my shoulder, and I leaned my head against hers, and we sat there in the quiet, in the warmth, in the peace we fought so hard to find. But peace, I was learning, is never permanent. It's something you have to work for, something you have to choose again and again every day. And sometimes, no matter how hard you try, things still fall apart. It happened in January, on a gray, cold day when the wind howled around the house and the temperature dropped below zero. We'd been working on the basement, trying to clear out years of accumulated junk, and we'd found more boxes, more remnants of our past. One box was full of Dad's things, stuff Mom had packed away after he died and never looked at again. His watch, his wallet, his wedding ring, his favorite flannel shirt, still smelling faintly of his cologne. Rachel held up the shirt, pressed it to her face, breathed in deep. "I miss him so much," she said, her voice muffled by the fabric. "Me too," I said. We kept digging through the box, and at the bottom, I found an envelope with my name on it, written in Dad's handwriting. My heart started pounding. I opened it with shaking hands and pulled out a letter dated just a few days before he died. "Dear Claire," it read, "if you're reading this, then I'm gone and I'm sorry. I'm sorry I won't be there to see you grow up, to walk you down the aisle, to meet your kids. I'm sorry I'm leaving you and Rachel and your mom to figure everything out without me. But I need you to know something. I need you to know that you are strong enough to handle whatever comes. You are brave and kind and capable, and I am so proud of you. Take care of your mom. Take care of your sister. Take care of yourself. I love you more than words can say. Dad." I couldn't breathe. The words blurred as tears filled my eyes, spilled over, ran down my cheeks. I read the letter again and again, trying to absorb it, trying to hold on to this piece of him, this message from beyond the grave. "What is it?" Rachel asked, and I handed her the letter wordlessly. She read it, and her face crumpled. "Why didn't you get one?" she asked, looking back in the box. "There has to be one for you, too." We searched through the rest of the box, through all the other boxes, but there was nothing. No letter for Rachel. No message from Dad. Just silence. Rachel sat back on her heels, her face pale. "He didn't write me one," she said flatly. "He wrote you one, but not me." "Maybe he did and it got lost," I said, trying to comfort her. "Maybe it's somewhere else, somewhere we haven't looked yet. Or maybe he knew," she said, her voice rising. "Maybe he knew I'd turn out to be a disappointment. Maybe he knew I'd leave, that I'd let everyone down, that I wouldn't be worth the effort of writing a letter to." "Rachel," no, I started, but she cut me off. "It's fine," she said, standing up abruptly. "It's fine. I'm used to it. I'm used to being the one who doesn't matter, the one who gets left behind, the one who's not worth remembering." "That's not true," I said, standing up too. "You matter. You've always mattered. Dad loved you just as much as he loved me." "Then where's my letter, Claire?" she demanded, and her voice broke. "Where's my letter telling me he was proud of me, that he loved me, that I was enough? Where is it?" "I don't know," I admitted, and I felt helpless, useless, unable to fix this, unable to make it better. "I don't know, Rachel, but I know he loved you. I know he did." She shook her head, backing away from me. "You don't know that. You can't know that. All you have is a letter that proves he loved you. I have nothing. I have nothing." She turned and ran up the stairs, and I heard her door slam, heard the lock click. I stood there in the basement, surrounded by boxes and memories and ghosts, holding Dad's letter in my hand. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to fix this. I didn't know how to make her see that she was loved, that she was wanted, that she was enough. I tried talking to her through the door, but she wouldn't answer. I tried leaving food outside her room, but it sat there untouched. She stayed locked in her room for 2 days, and I was starting to panic, starting to think about breaking down the door when she finally emerged. She looked terrible. Her eyes were hollow. Her skin was pale, and she lost weight she couldn't afford to lose. But there was something different about her, too, something harder, more resolved. "I'm leaving," she said without preamble. "I'm going back to Chicago. This was a mistake. I shouldn't have come back." "No," I said, the word coming out sharp and desperate. "No, Rachel, please, don't do this. Don't run away again." "I'm not running away," she said. "I'm accepting reality. I don't belong here. I never did. You have Dad's letter. You have his love. You have everything. I have nothing. So I'm leaving." "You have me," I said, and my voice cracked. "You have me, Rachel. Isn't that enough? Isn't that worth staying for?" She looked at me, and for a moment, I thought I saw her waver, thought I saw doubt flicker across her face. But then she shook her head. "I can't," she whispered. "I can't stay here and be reminded every day that I was enough, that I'm not enough. I can't do it, Claire. I'm sorry." She went upstairs to pack, and I followed her, desperate, pleading. "I'll give you the letter," I said. "You can have it. You can have Dad's letter. I don't need it. I know he loved me. You can have it. I don't want your pity," she said, shoving clothes into her duffel bag. "I don't want your charity. I want to matter on my own, not because you're trying to make me feel better. You do matter," I insisted. "You matter to me. Please, Rachel, please don't go. We've come so far. We've worked so hard. Don't throw it all away because of one letter, because of one thing that doesn't even mean what you think it means." She zipped up her bag, slung it over her shoulder. "I have to go," she said. "I have to figure out who I am without all of this, without you, without Mom, without Dad. I have to stand on my own." "Then let me come with you," I said wildly. "Let me help you. We can figure out together." "No," she said firmly. "This is something I have to do alone." She walked past me, down the stairs, toward the door. I followed her, my mind racing, tried to think of something to say, something to do, something that would make her stay. But I came up empty. I had nothing left to offer, nothing left to give. She paused at the door, her hand on the knob, and looked back at me. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for letting me come back, for trying to forgive me, for being my sister. I'm sorry I couldn't be what you needed. You are what I need," I said, tears streaming down my face. "You're exactly what I need. Please, Rachel, please." But she opened the door and walked out, and I stood there watching her get into her car, watching her back out of the driveway, watching her disappear down the street. And then she was gone, again, and I was alone, again, and the house felt emptier than it ever had before. I sank down onto the floor right there in the entryway, my back against the wall, and I cried. I cried for Rachel, for the pain she carried, for the wounds that wouldn't heal. I cried for Dad, for the letter he'd written and the one he hadn't. I cried for Mom, who tried so hard to hold us together and hadn't been able to. I cried for myself, for the sister I'd lost twice now, for the family that kept breaking no matter how hard I tried to fix it. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough that the light changed, the gray afternoon fading into gray evening. Long enough that I got cold, the chill from the floor seeping into my bones. Long enough that I started to wonder if this was it, if this was how it ended, alone in this house with nothing but memories and regrets. But then I heard something. A car in the driveway, footsteps on the porch, the door opening. Rachel stood there, her duffel bag still over her shoulder, her face streaked with tears. I got to the end of the street, she said, her voice shaking. I got to the end of the street, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't leave. Not again. Not like this. I scrambled to my feet, hardly daring to believe it. "You came back," I breathed. "I came back," she confirmed. "Because you're right. Because I do have you. And maybe that is enough. Maybe that's more than enough." I crossed the space between us and threw my arms around her, and she dropped her bag and hugged me back, and we stood there in the doorway, holding each other, crying and laughing at the same time. "I'm sorry," she said into my shoulder. "I'm so sorry. I keep running away, and I don't know how to stop." "Then stop," I said. "Just stop. Stay here. Stay with me. We'll figure out together. We'll figure all of it out together." She pulled back, looked at me with red, swollen eyes. "What if I mess up again? What if I let you down?" "Then you mess up," I said. "Then you let me down. And we'll deal with it. That's what families do. They mess up, and they forgive, and they keep trying. That's all we can do. Just keep trying." She nodded, wiping at her face. "Okay," she said. "Okay, I'll stay. I'll try." We went inside, closed the door against the cold, and I made us tea. And we sat at the kitchen table, the same table we'd sat at as kids, doing homework and eating snacks and fighting over who got the last cookie. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. We'd said everything that needed to be said, and now we just needed to be, to exist in the same space, to remember how to be sisters. Over the next few weeks, Things settled into a new normal. Rachel stayed. She kept her job at the restaurant, kept putting money toward the house, kept showing up day after day. We finished clearing out the basement, finished painting the bedrooms, finished all the little projects we'd started. The house started to feel less like a mausoleum and more like a home. We talked about Dad's letter, really talked about it. I showed Rachel the letter again, and we read it together. And I pointed out that Dad had written it when he was sick, when he probably didn't have much time, when he was trying to get his affairs in order. Maybe he'd meant to write one for Rachel too, and ran out of time. Maybe he'd written one, and it had gotten lost. Maybe he'd thought he had more time than he did. We'd never know for sure, but we could choose what to believe, and we chose to believe that he loved us both equally, completely. Rachel started seeing a therapist, someone who specialized in trauma and family issues. She went once a week, and slowly, gradually, she started to heal, started to let go of some of the pain and anger and shame she'd been carrying. She started to believe that she was worthy of love, that she deserved good things, that her past didn't have to define her future. I started seeing a therapist too, because I realized I had my own stuff to work through, my own grief and anger and resentment. I'd been so focused on taking care of everyone else that I'd never taken care of myself, never processed my own pain. It was hard work, painful work, but it was necessary work. Spring came, and with it, new life. The trees budded, the flowers bloomed, the grass turned green again. We planted a garden in the backyard, something Mom had always wanted to do, but never had the time or energy for. We planted tomatoes and peppers and herbs, and we tended them carefully, watering and weeding and watching them grow. One warm afternoon in May, we were out in the garden, our hands dirty, our faces flushed from the sun, when Rachel said, "I've been thinking about something." "What's that?" I asked, pulling up a weed. "I've been thinking about the house," she said, "about what we should do with it." I sat back on my heels, looked at her. "What do you want to do with it?" She was quiet for a moment, her fingers trailing through the soil. "I think we should keep it," she said. "I think we should make it ours, really ours. Not Mom's house, not the house we grew up in, but our house. A place we choose to be, not a place we're stuck in." "I like that idea," I said. "But what would that look like?" She smiled. It was a real smile, bright and hopeful. "I don't know yet," she said, "but I think we should figure out together. Maybe we turn it into something new. Maybe we rent out rooms. Maybe we just live here and make new memories. I don't know, but I think we should decide together, as equals, as partners, as sisters." I added, "As sisters," she agreed. We decided to keep the house, to make it ours. We finished the renovations, adding our own touches, our own style. We painted the kitchen a cheerful yellow, replaced the ugly linoleum with tile. We hung new curtains, bought new furniture, filled the walls with photos of us, of our life together, of the family we were building. We had hard days still, days when old wounds ached, when old patterns resurfaced, when we snapped at each other or retreated into silence. But we'd learned how to come back from those days, how to apologize, how to forgive, how to keep moving forward. One evening in late summer, we were sitting on the porch, watching the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. The air was warm and thick with the smell of cut grass and blooming flowers. Fireflies were starting to emerge, blinking on and off in the gathering dusk. "Do you ever think about what Mom would say?" Rachel asked, if she could see us now. I thought about it. Pictured Mom standing in the doorway, her arms crossed, that little smile she got when she was pleased but trying not to show it. "I think she'd be happy," I said. "I think she'd be proud of us for not giving up, for fighting for each other, for figuring it out." "I hope so," Rachel said softly. "I hope she knows we tried. I hope she knows we're okay." "I think she knows," I said. "Wherever she is, I think she knows." We sat there in comfortable silence, watching the sky darken, watching the stars come out one by one. The house behind us was lit up, warm and welcoming, and I could hear the faint sound of music from the radio we'd left on in the kitchen. Everything felt peaceful, settled, right? "Thank you," Rachel said suddenly, "for not giving up on me, for letting me come back, for giving me another chance." "Thank you for coming back," I said. for staying, for being my sister. She reached over and took my hand. Squeeze it gently. Always, she said. I'm always going to be your sister. No matter what. Always, I echoed. And sitting there on that porch, in that house that had seen so much pain and loss and struggle, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt hope. Hope that we'd be okay, that we'd make it through whatever came next, that we'd keep choosing each other, keep showing up, keep trying. The house wasn't perfect. We weren't perfect. But we were here together, and that was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything. As the months turned into years, Rachel and I built a life together in that house. We celebrated birthdays and holidays. We had movie nights and game nights, and nights where we just sat and talked for hours. We fought and made up and fought again and made up again. We learned each other's rhythms, each other's needs, each other's boundaries. Rachel met someone, a woman named Sarah who worked at the library, who was kind and patient and made Rachel laugh in a way I hadn't heard in years. I watched them fall in love, watched Rachel open up and trust and believe that she deserved happiness. When they got engaged, Rachel asked me to be her maid of honor, and I cried and said yes, and we started planning a wedding. I met someone too, a man named David who taught at the local high school, who loved books and bad puns and long walks in the rain. He was steady and reliable, and made me feel safe in a way I hadn't known I needed. When he asked me to move in with him, I hesitated, not wanting to leave Rachel, not wanting to abandon the house we'd worked so hard to make ours. But Rachel encouraged me, told me it was time, that she'd be fine, that she and Sarah were talking about moving in together anyway. So I moved out, but I didn't move far, just across town, close enough that I could come back anytime, close enough that the house still felt like home. Rachel and Sarah moved in together, and they filled the house with new energy, new life, new love. They adopted a dog, a goofy golden retriever named Biscuit, who had too much energy and not enough sense. They hosted dinners and parties, and the house that had been so quiet and sad for so long was suddenly full of laughter and music and joy. We sold Mom's bedroom furniture, finally, and turned the room into a guest room, painting it a soft blue and filling it with comfortable furniture and fresh linens. It felt like a release, like we were finally letting go of the past, making room for the future. But we kept some things. We kept Mom's quilt on the guest bed. We kept her favorite mug in the kitchen cabinet. We kept the photos on the mantle, adding new ones alongside the old, creating a timeline of our family, past and present and future. We kept Dad's letter too, framed and hanging in the hallway, a reminder of his love, his faith in us, his belief that we were strong enough to handle whatever came. And next to it, we hung something else, a letter Rachel had written, addressed to Dad, telling him about her life, about what she'd learned, about who she'd become. It wasn't the same as having a letter from him, but it was something, a way of closing the loop, of saying the things she'd never gotten to say. On the anniversary of Mom's death, we started a tradition. We'd go to the cemetery in the morning, bring fresh flowers, sit by her grave and talk to her, tell her about our lives, about what we were doing, about how we were managing. Then we'd come back to the house and make her favorite meal, pot roast with carrots and potatoes, and we'd eat together, sharing stories and memories, keeping her alive in the only way we could. It was on one of those anniversaries, 5 years after Rachel had come back, that we finally talked about what had happened, really talked about it, without anger or blame or defensiveness. We were sitting in the backyard, in the garden that had grown and flourished, surrounded by tomato plants heavy with fruit and herbs that filled the air with their scent. "Do you ever regret it?" I asked. "Coming back?" Rachel thought about it, really thought about it. "No," she said finally. "I regret leaving in the first place. I regret missing so much time with Mom. But coming back, that's the best decision I ever made. It saved my life. Claire, you saved my life." "You saved mine too," I said. "I didn't realize how much I needed you until you came back. I was so focused on being angry, on being the one who stayed, that I didn't see how lonely I was, how much I was struggling. Having you here, working through everything together, it made all the difference. We were quite the mess, weren't we?" Rachel said with a wry smile. "We were," I agreed, "but we figured it out. We're still figuring it out." and we will keep figuring it out, Rachel said, for as long as it takes. For the rest of our lives. For the rest of our lives, I repeated, and it felt like a promise, a commitment, a vow. The sun was setting again, like it had that evening years ago when we'd sat on the porch and watched the fireflies. But this time, we weren't alone. Sarah was in the kitchen, making dinner, and David was on his way over, and Biscuit was running around the yard, chasing butterflies. The house was full of life, full of love, full of the family we'd chosen and built and fought for. I looked at Rachel, at my sister, at the person who knew me better than anyone, who'd hurt me and healed me and taught me what it meant to forgive. She was smiling, her face relaxed and happy, and I realized that this was what Mom had wanted all along. Not perfection, not a family without problems or pain. Just this, just us, together, trying our best, loving each other through the hard times and the good times and all the times in between. The house stood behind us, solid and strong, its windows glowing with warm light. It had weathered storms and seasons, had held our grief and our joy, had been a witness to our breaking and our healing. It was more than just wood and brick and mortar. It was a testament to what we'd survived, what we'd overcome, what we'd built together. Sweet home, I thought, or not, it had been both, at different times, in different ways. It had been a place of pain and a place of healing, a prison and a sanctuary, an ending and a beginning. But most of all, it had been ours, and that made all the difference. Rachel's wedding was beautiful, a small ceremony in the backyard of the house, under the trees that had shaded us as children. She wore a simple white dress, and Sarah wore pale blue, and they both glowed with happiness. I stood beside Rachel as she said her vows, and I cried, but they were good tears, happy tears, tears of joy for my sister who'd found her way home, who'd found love, who'd found herself. At the reception, we danced and ate and celebrated, and at one point, Rachel pulled me aside, away from the crowd, and hugged me tight. "Thank you," she whispered in my ear, "for everything, for being here, for never giving up on me, for being the best sister anyone could ask for." "You're the best sister anyone could ask for," I said back, and I meant it. She wasn't perfect. Neither was I. But we were sisters, and that bond, that connection, was stronger than anything that had tried to break it. When David and I got married a year later, Rachel returned the favor, standing beside me as I said my vows, crying happy tears, celebrating my happiness the way I'd celebrated hers. We had the ceremony at the house, too, because it felt right, because it was where our story had unfolded, where we'd learned what it meant to be family. Life moved forward, as it always does. Rachel and Sarah talked about having kids, maybe adopting, maybe fostering. David and I talked about it too, about starting a family of our own. The house would need more work if there were going to be kids running around, more safety measures, more space. But we'd figure it out. We always did. Sometimes, late at night, when I couldn't sleep, I'd drive over to the house and just sit in the driveway, looking at it, remembering. I'd remember Mom in the kitchen, humming while she cooked. I'd remember Dad in the garage, tinkering with something that was broken, always believing he could fix it. I'd remember Rachel and me as kids, playing in the yard, fighting over toys, making up elaborate games that only made sense to us. And I'd remember the hard times, too, the fights and the tears and the years of silence, the pain of loss and the struggle of forgiveness, the moments when I thought we'd never find our way back to each other, when I thought the damage was too deep, the wounds too raw. But we had found our way back. Against all odds, despite all the pain, we'd found our way back to each other. And that, I realized, was the real story. Not the leaving or the returning, not the fighting or forgiving, but the choosing, the choice to stay, to try, to love even when it was hard, even when it hurt, even when it would have been easier to walk away. The house had been the backdrop for all of it, the constant in a life full of variables. It had held us when we were broken, sheltered us when we were lost, welcomed us when we were ready to come home. It wasn't just a building. It was a repository of memories, a keeper of secrets, a witness to our lives. Sweet home, or not, it depended on the day, on the moment, on what we brought to it. But it was ours, and we were its, and that connection, that belonging, was something precious, something worth fighting for, something worth keeping. Years passed, and the house aged along with us. The paint faded and needed refreshing. The roof needed repairs again. The plumbing acted up. But we took care of it, Rachel and Sarah and David and me, all of us pitching in, all of us invested in keeping it standing, keeping it strong. We added to it too. A deck off the back, perfect for summer barbecues. A renovated bathroom with modern fixtures. A new fence around the yard. Each improvement was a layer of our story, a mark of our presence, a way of saying we were here, we mattered, we were making our mark. And through it all, through the years and the changes and the growth, Rachel and I remained constant. We had our ups and downs, our good days and bad days, our moment of closeness and moments of distance. But we always came back to each other. We always chose each other. We always remembered what we'd fought so hard to build. On the 10th anniversary of Rachel's return, we threw a party at the house. We invited everyone, friends and family and neighbors, and we filled the house and the yard with people and laughter and love. There was music and food and dancing, and at one point, Rachel and I stood on the porch, looking out at the celebration, at all the people who become part of our lives, part of our story. Can you believe it's been 10 years? Rachel asked, shaking her head in wonder. I can't, I admitted. It feels like yesterday and a lifetime ago, all at once. I almost didn't come back, Rachel said quietly. I almost let fear win. I'm so glad I didn't. I'm glad too, I said. I'm glad you came back. I'm glad you stayed. I'm glad we figured it out. She put her arm around my shoulders, and I put mine around her waist, and we stood there together, watching our friends and family celebrate, watching the life we'd built unfold before us. The house stood solid behind us, and I could almost feel Mom and Dad there too, watching, smiling, proud of what we'd become, proud of what we created. This is what home is. I thought, not a place, not a building, but this connection, this love, this choice to keep showing up, to keep trying, to keep believing that we're worth the effort. This is home. This is family. This is everything. The party went late into the night, and when everyone finally left, when the house was quiet again, Rachel and Sarah and David and I sat in the living room, exhausted and happy, surrounded by the debris of celebration. We didn't clean up. We just sat there, too tired to move, too content to care. Best party ever, Sarah said, her head on Rachel's shoulder. Agreed, David said, his hand in mine. Rachel looked at me and smiled. Thank you, she said, for all of this, for everything. Thank you, I said back, for coming home. And that was it. That was the story. Not a fairy tale with a perfect ending, but a real story, messy and complicated and beautiful. A story about two sisters who lost their way and found it again. A story about a house that held them through it all. A story about family and forgiveness, and the power of choosing love over anger, connection over isolation, hope over despair. The house still stands, weathered but strong, filled with memories and love and life. Rachel and Sarah still live there, and they've made it truly theirs, adding their own touches, their own story to its walls. David and I visit often, and sometimes we stay the night in the guest room, sleeping under Mom's quilt, surrounded by the ghosts of our past and the promise of our future. We've talked about what will happen to the house eventually, when we're gone, when it's time to pass it on. Maybe we'll leave it to our kids, if we have them. Maybe we'll turn it into something else, something that serves the community, something that helps other families find their way home. We don't know yet, but we have time to figure it out. We have time to decide together, because that's what we do now. We decide together. We face things together. We build our lives together, not as two separate people who happen to be related, but as sisters, as family, as two halves of a whole that was broken and has been painstakingly, lovingly put back together. The cracks are still there. They always will be. You can see them if you look closely. The places where we broke, where we hurt each other, where we almost lost each other for good. But those cracks are part of our story now, part of what makes us who we are. They're proof that we survived, that we healed, that we're stronger than we thought we were. And sometimes, when the light hits just right, those cracks shine like gold, like the Japanese art kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold, making it more beautiful for having been broken. That's us. That's our family. That's our home. Broken and repaired. Scarred and beautiful. Imperfect and precious. Sweet home or not. It's both. It's everything. It's ours. On quiet evenings, when the house is still and the world outside is dark, I sometimes walk through the rooms, touching the walls, remembering. I remember the day Rachel came back, standing in the rain, looking lost and scared. I remember the fights and the tears and the moments when I thought we'd never make it. I remember the breakthroughs and the healing and the slow, steady work of rebuilding trust. And I remember the love, always the love that Mom had for us, that Dad had for us, that we have for each other, the love that survived everything, that endured to the pain and the distance and the years of silence, the love that brought us back together and keeps us together still. That love is woven into every board and beam of this house. It's in the walls we painted together, the floors we refinished together, the garden we planted together. It's in the photos on the mantle and the letters in the hallway and the memories that fill every corner. It's in the laughter that echoes through the rooms and the tears that have been shed on these floors and the hope that lives in every sunrise we see through these windows. This house is more than shelter. It's more than property. It's a testament to what we've survived, what we've overcome, what we've built. It's proof that broken things can be fixed, that lost things can be found, that families can heal if they're willing to do the work. And we were willing. We are willing. We will always be willing. Because that's what love is. Not a feeling, not a sentiment, but a choice. A choice to stay, to fight, to forgive, to try again and again and again until you get it right. A choice to believe that the person in front of you is worth the effort, worth the pain, worth the risk. Rachel was worth it. She is worth it. She will always be worth it. And I believe that she feels the same way about me. The story doesn't end here. Stories never really end. They just pause, take a breath, and continue in new directions. Our story will keep unfolding, day by day, year by year, as we navigate whatever comes next. There will be more challenges, more obstacles, more moments when we have to choose each other all over again. But I'm not afraid of that. I'm ready for it. Because I know now what I didn't know before. I know that we can handle it. I know that we're strong enough. I know that together we can face anything. The house will be here, holding us, sheltering us, reminding us of where we've been and where we're going. It will stand as long as we need it to, and when it's time to let it go, we'll do that together too. We'll say goodbye to the walls that held our secrets and the rooms that witnessed our transformation. We'll thank it for everything it gave us, everything it taught us, everything it was. But that day is not today. Today, the house is full of life and love and possibility. Today, Rachel is here and I am here, and we are together. Today, we are home. Sweet home, or not. It doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that it's ours, that we chose it, that we fought for it, that we made it into something beautiful despite everything that tried to tear it apart. What matters is that we're here, together, still standing, still trying, still loving each other through all the mess and the beauty and the complicated, wonderful reality of being family. And that, in the end, is enough. That is more than enough. That is everything.